Jennifer, not sure where you'd like to start, so pick a place and tell me.
Well, let's start with Geneviève Guilbeault, and then we can
Okay.
go around to the elephant in the room. Okay, so last week you'll recall that the Quebec Liberal Party was calling for the resignations of not just Éric Kerr, who did eventually resign, but also François Bonnardel and Geneviève Guilbeault. Now, she seems to think, this is what she indicated this afternoon at that presser, talking about the tramway that was just referred to on the news clip there, that she believes that the premier, she has the confidence of the premier, and so on and so forth. Now, I have it on very, very good authority of how things work over in the premier's office and among people. So basically, it's really, really simple. Now, this is a trait that is remarkable in people, but it's a bit. It can be dangerous when you're blind. Your loyalty is blind in a politician. So he's very, very. He is loyal, and he rewards loyalty. And if he likes you, then you're pretty safe in your job, even if you're an incompetent. I'm not saying that Geneviève Guilbeault is incompetent, but the whole concept and the whole tenet of ministerial accountability doesn't seem to exist in this government. So, the premier will keep people in positions much longer than they should be allowed to be kept in when they become a liability because he may like them or, they represent perhaps a significant area like in Quebec City, like she does with votes. So, She's sticking around, and she's promising full transparency on the SACLIC public inquiry.
Do you think, Jennifer, that this idea of calling a public inquiry, which of course the premier said a day before he said he wouldn't, is that to get this out of the headlines every day?
Yeah, I think so. Because it was pretty irregular. We were hearing about. High-level public servants getting axed for different things. It was it's highly irregular, and I think he needed to change the channel. So, sadly, it's you got to feel for Éric Kerr because he was the fall guy for the other two. They all should have resigned. I mean, that's the way ministerial accountability and ministerial responsibility works in the Westminster model. Political science lesson over.
By the way, I will point out, if they keep resigning, he's lost a few cabinet ministers, starting with Pierre Fitzgibbon, right? I mean, it's going to end up where if there's another resignation or possibly two here, it's going to start to look even worse for the government. And it's interesting, there was a poll, and I'm sure you saw it this week, showing that the CAQ has kind of fallen really into third place for a while. Then, of course, this Donald Trump tariff thing puts them back in the news, makes the premier look like, mon oncle again, which is always good for him. But you got to wonder, is this party done, do you think?
Well, the thing is, Aaron, it is and it always has been a cult of personality around François Legault, and you just alluded to he's like a caricature of mon oncle, and he wears the mon oncle suit very, very well. And he was good yesterday in his press conference, and I'm pleased with the Quebec government's responses to the tariffs, and I'm beyond proud of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who I think can leave with his head held high. But I think what'll end up happening, and especially when and if ever the Liberals get a leader, and the PQ, they're not, it's a difficult time for them, and it should be, the CAQ should be kind of profiting from this insurging. I mean, look at Doug Ford riding this all the way to a massive majority in Ontario a year before he even had to do it. François Legault, I don't think he would be able to pull off such a stunt.
All right, let's move on from that and talk about, is the elephant in the room today Trump and Trudeau? What's the elephant in the room?
Yeah, it's always Trump. It's always Trump. So, yesterday afternoon, I spent a considerable amount of time with a lot of really smart people, and so I didn't want to ruin that vibe by watching his speech last night, so I didn't. And I'm glad I didn't.
Okay.
I'm glad I didn't because I sent an article to Dean, and we were just chatting about it before I got on with you here. It was a BBC fact checking some of the things he said, and I mean it's got there's so many of them we can't even go over them right now. But that's 99 minutes I won't get back, and speaking of time, 50 minutes that Justin Trudeau won't get back, having wasted on the telephone with Donald Trump today. And I just kind of, does he have any qualified staff around him to brief him that, yes, we don't have fixed election dates in Canada. Justin won't be the prime minister anymore on Sunday, and he's going to have to find somebody else to pick on. I loved the suggestion, I think it was Jim made before, that he should appoint Justin as the special envoy to Trump, because that would drive, because Donald Trump has a personal enmity towards Justin Trudeau. Yeah. And it's showing in all of his actions, and it's interesting because if Justin Trudeau headed one of the big three, he might have been able to get something done. Because we saw this afternoon, it's kind of like he and François Legault share some interesting traits, but that's a topic for a different day. But he gets on the telephone with Stellantis, GM, and Ford, and suddenly there's a break for the tariffs on that sector. I mean, it's a temporary break, but it's still a break.
I will point out, by the way, with respect to this break for the 1 month, in his speech last night, he actually said that the three major the auto manufacturers love him. They had glowing things to say. When in fact it's exactly the opposite. The head of Ford came out the day before, 2 days before, to suggest that if these tariffs went into effect, it would be devastating for the industry. So just want to point that out. Another one of those things that's a complete reversal from what the actual truth is. I'm wondering in the case of Justin Trudeau, the other thing that's really strange here, Jennifer, is the fact that, come Monday, Justin Trudeau is no longer the leader of the Liberal Party or the Prime Minister. And for all the talk about, they shouldn't have prorogued Parliament and this should be a time where we're all in there. I know you can't turn back the clock because maybe no one expected this to happen, but I wonder if this does a bit of a disservice to Canada.
Well, I'm not sure about that. I mean, it would, there's nothing stopping any of the leaders of the opposition parties, including Pierre Poilievre and Mr. Singh and the Bloc Québécois. I mean, the Bloc Québécois came out with something today, but they have plenty of platforms. There's nothing stopping them from putting their points of view out and using the opportunity to shine. The Parliament's prorogued. We're getting a new prime minister. I mean, this is really strange because we're actually getting a new prime minister. I hate when people say, "Oh, I'm running for prime minister." Nobody runs for prime minister. You run for member of parliament, and then you become the leader of your party, and then you become the prime minister. But you were actually I voted for the prime minister today. I won't tell you for who I voted, but I did. I voted in the Liberal leadership race today, and that because Sunday is the big day. Yeah.
I wonder, though, at the end of it all, there was a reference today by Donald Trump. I don't know if you saw this. After his conversation, I just read the text really quickly. It's not that long. Mm-hmm. So Donald Trump has a phone meeting with Justin Trudeau today, and we're thinking maybe something will come of it. And at the end of it, he then tweets, Donald Trump, Justin Trudeau of Canada called me to ask what could be done about tariffs. I told him that many people have died from fentanyl that came through the borders of Canada and Mexico, and nothing has convinced me that it has stopped. He said that it's gotten better, but I said, that's not good enough. The call ended in a, quote, and he put this in quotes, somewhat friendly manner. He was unable to tell me when the Canadian election is taking place, which made me curious, like, what's going on here? I then realized he's trying to use this issue to stay in power. Good luck, Justin.
He looks like a fool. I mean, Justin's going to be gone. That's why I wondered, does he have anybody that's briefing him? Because normally, say, if the prime minister or premier or whoever it is going in a meeting with another world leader, they're briefed and they know what's happening in that country. But he's so insular and so kind of willfully ignorant about other countries. But then, he was saying the same sort of thing in that. Well, I won't even talk about the disgusting exchange with Zelensky, but calling him a dictator. And I mean, what's next? Is Justin is going to be dictator Trudeau or something?
But here's the issue. On that Zelensky meeting from last week, which was just an incredibly embarrassing display, I think, for anybody, whether you're a fan or not. Unless, of course, you think Trump. If you're a Trumper, I guess you think, wow, look at him. He put him in his place. But that was pretty embarrassing, I think, to most people. But you know what? The thing is, Jennifer, 2 days later, after Zelensky had gone to London and sort of talked about what Europe could do and how they would support him, he basically caved, right? He capitulated. He said, you know what? I want a peace deal. It was, what did he use? He used the word regrettable to describe the meeting he had. So I hate to put it this way, but that's just another win for Trump. It's like, you know what? You weren't thankful enough. You didn't do what we wanted you to do. You came crawling back, and now we're going to help you.
Well, between the time that he caved, and the time that he left the White House after the press conference was canceled, he had some other significant meetings in the UK, and so I'm sure that some of the discussions that he had both with King Charles and with British Prime Minister Starmer, and Starmer actually came out of number 10 and greeted him on the street.
Yeah.
There's unusual. He got very warm reception in England, and maybe some of the what he was hearing there factored into the capitulation. But I think what we're realizing with Donald Trump, and I'll draw a little analogy. Bear with me on this one. It's kind of like the Anglos in Quebec. We Anglos, as we find out with the CAQ government, it's always moving goalposts. Nothing's ever what it seems. And I think that that's the same type of thing that you have to get used to with Donald Trump, because just when you think that you know what he wants, he's going to move the goalposts. It's like Lucy and Charlie Brown in the football,
Fair enough. All right.